This is For Better and Worth,
the podcast where we don't believe you have to sacrifice your relationship while you build your net worth.
We are your hosts.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Ericka Young, and we're so glad you joined us today.
All right, y'all, come on. Let's get into it. Welcome back.
Yes, we are back again, week after week.
Hey, we are just so glad to keep pressing record and putting content out. Hopefully you guys are receiving this, and actually we're having fun right now. I don't know, but what do you say, babe?
Yes, honestly, this is fun to record, to share our stories, and to just kind of talk through some of the stuff. Like, we're going back in the past and like really dredging up some of the things that we probably forgot about for a while. So I think it's just fun to reminisce and also evaluate and see how it's really shaped who we are today. And then also, honestly, some of this stuff is today, but it's cool to have these conversations. And honestly, I feel like, it is fun.
Yeah, I think, as I look back and I reflect on this as we continue to keep going, it's the foundational things. And, as people listen, I hope that they get the foundation, because when you get the foundation right, everything else you build upon it will be rock solid. Mm-hmm. And so, every week we're trying to build on that foundation, and we're trying to give you things that, can help you move forward, not only in your relationship, but in your debt journey, and on the road to, wealth and prosperity, all those good things, whatever adjective you want to choose to use, or, just add on to that.
Right. It's a choose your own adventure type of thing, right?
Right.
And for us, getting out of debt was our path to creating the type of future that we want, that we are currently getting a chance to enjoy. So that's the whole deal.
Yeah. And one thing that we've learned, which I'm sure some people out there will experience, is that getting out of debt can be a lonely journey. And like anything, friends can either be there with you, or they can be a hindrance to what you're choosing to do. Yes,
there can be some naysayers. There's going to be some people who say, "You're crazy. Why are you doing this?"
Look, let's call it for what it's going to be. What it is, So they say haters going to hate, right? Mm-hmm. You're going to have some haters out there that when you're choosing to do some things that are different, some people are going to hate on you, like, well, why are you doing that?
Yeah. And I think that the biggest thing in the very beginning in us getting out of debt was, one, the commitment to the fact that we weren't going to participate in debt, right? Like, people think it's a normal occurrence and all of that, and it is just a part of life. And we had to push back on that idea. And also, at that time, like, really just saying no to credit cards, because it was not helpful, at where we are. I mean, just, to continue to debt is not going to help you get out of debt, right? And so the stances that we took were not popular, right?
I remember those early days when I first became a Christian, and I was trying to do some things different and change my life, and people were looking at me kind of side eye and
like, who do you think you are, right?
And I remember like having to just like sever some friendships and break some relationships. So what I'm telling you all is, when you get on that journey and you have reached a point where you're fed up and you want something different, and you decide that you're going to take a different journey and get out of debt and start changing your financial tree and your family tree and, everything that you want to see in your life for the positive, you might have to leave some folks behind.
Yeah.
Because some friends are going to jump on with you, and some friends you're going to have to say, you know what, I wish you well, but, this train is moving, and unfortunately, you don't have a ticket. And it may sound rough, but look, in the age of taking care of your own personal health and mental well-being, sometimes it's okay to say, bon voyage, au revoir.
You are quick to you are quick to pull the plug, right? Like, you just gonna cut somebody off because they like, we don't think you doing the right thing about getting out of debt. Come on now, honey.
Look, my friends that are close, they know I love them, and I really don't like cutting people off, And sometimes I belabor some of those things where change is, coming, and I've looked back in the past at friendships and I was like, man, what happened?
Yeah.
Why did it go left when it was going, so well? And so, no, I don't think I'm quick to cut people off, but I'm just quick to protect myself.
Yes. And I think that's the real point, right? Like, is that it's already something that not a lot of people are doing. And I think we do have to protect ourselves from people and their comments and their thoughts and their viewpoints on what it is that you're doing, because this is your life. You get to own it. And we can't let that alter our perspective on what is important to us and that kind of thing. So I do remember one friendship that honestly went south simply because we weren't on board. Like we didn't align on this one thing, and we were no longer really invited to a whole bunch of stuff with them. And I was like, dang, and we weren't completely cut off, but there was definitely a divide between the relationship, just disagreeing about, the path forward and how we were going to do it. And I mean, and that was painful.
Yeah, and what's crazy is it wasn't like, oh, I'm hating on what you're doing.
Right.
I'm like, oh, do you, and catch me after. It's just not something that I wanted to do. And so I think when people get on a journey, especially a debt reduction journey, or let's just keep it even broader than that, when you get into relationships and, you're trying to do something new, sometimes it's very misunderstood, some of the sacrifices that we're willing to make, or some of the choices and, things that we may have done previously, but we're choosing to not do them for the sake of either developing further along with the relationship or getting to a point where you don't have debt, you're eliminating debt. So you're choosing to move a little differently. And I just think people sometimes just don't understand.
Yeah. And I think it's okay for them not to understand. I have one of the biggest things that I learned, and this wasn't back in the day when we were trying to get out of debt. Honestly, this is something that I've realized recently in the last 5 years, is that it's okay to be misunderstood. Like, I'm really okay if you don't get me 100%. That's okay, because I can't change who I am. I'm unwilling to change who I am because you don't understand me fully or understand what I'm doing or what I'm up to. And that's okay. Actually, what freed me too was maybe there are some conversations that you don't have to have with certain people. Everybody doesn't have to know all of your business. You just do you and get to where you want to be, and don't let anyone hold you back from that. And so I think that that's something, it took me some years to get to the place where it was like, when it's contrary to popular opinion, you still push forward regardless.
Yeah, it's that old phrase, misery loves company. And sometimes I think people want you to do what they are doing, even if they don't, especially when they don't understand maybe some of the choices that you're making. Yeah. Because if you think about it, we were young when we got married. We were young when we first started having kids. And we were young when we got on this debt reduction journey. And we knew that at the end of it was a bigger outcome. And some people couldn't understand, well, man, why are you guys getting so adamant about some of these things? And even now, I've got the philosophy where, we're willing to wait.
Yeah.
We're not very impulsive when it comes to spending, and we will wait until we have the money to fund what it is we're looking to do. And we'll spend, but we're very calculated in that way. And I think some people are sometimes like, well, why don't you just do it,
Yeah. And I think, what's so interesting is that, like, in practical terms, we're talking about saying no to doing something immediately and waiting until we actually have all of the cash. Or, it is, not using, a credit card, or saying that we're going to save up for a vehicle. These are activities that, because we want to live it out, they come out of our mouth, right? And sometimes it's not your friends. Sometimes it's your family, right? You got to make sure that you're not saying all of the things, because the truth is that if you really want to protect yourself and get somewhere, not everybody has to know how you're doing it unless they ask. I mean, there have been times when cousins have asked and people have asked, and they're curious about what it is we're up to, and that's all good. But when we have the naysayers and the haters and, the ones who, are not committed to what you're committed to, that's where it can get problematic. This journey requires discipline. It requires daily saying, I am committed to this higher thing in my life. And that means that something else might have to go for right now. So I can't, for instance, go on that trip with you, or I can't, for instance, dine out with you, or the higher thing that I'm choosing is to pay off this credit card or to put this money in savings. And that, it takes determination. It really takes, what they call it in the past. It's stick-to-itiveness. So, yeah.
I think you said something important, though. You said it requires commitment.
Mm-hmm.
And commitment is something that, you have to be able to stand on in the face of challenge.
Yeah.
Because not everybody may understand. And I've been very clear to not ever feel like, I'm trying to show off or say I'm doing something better than you,
right,
or, this is what you should be doing. I'm trying to let my life live as an example to see if you do these things, this is what the outcome can look like.
Yeah.
And so it's more of that, let me be an example to show you what it can be.
Right.
And then if you're interested, I can tell you what was required.
Yeah.
The commitment that it took in the face of challenge. Because even if you say no, that I can't dine out or I can't do this particular thing, I'm not saying no, I can't spend time with you, or I don't want to spend time with you, or I don't want this friendship or relationship or whatever it is. It's just saying maybe we need to modify in this moment. Maybe we need to look at how we do things differently. If it's spending time, or, let's eat at home.
Yeah.
Or let's make a meal. Or,
right.
Let's hang out on the back patio or whatever it may be. It's not saying no, but I think sometimes, friends can take it
personally.
Good or bad. Yeah.
Yeah, and take it personally. But I remember back in the day, this was way back in the day, you actually said
I knew you were going to bring
Yes. Come on now. Let's be honest. Tell our truth. So, like, you said back in the day something to a friend that I was taken aback by. I was like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. So, I'm going to need you to expound on the story, babe.
And if my friend is listening, you know who you are. And I think I had reached a point where I was just like a radical about certain things.
Yeah.
I was like, look, you know what? This is what I'm doing. This is what my family doing. This is how we are going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I literally was like, look, if you're not going to get on board, you're not going to be able to roll with me.
Yeah.
Because I'm going places. I'm doing things. I'm going to be, saving money. I'm getting out of debt. So you better get yourself together and you better get you some money, because if you want to roll, you're going to need to be able to take care of you.
Right.
And so he was like, I think at first he was like,
he was like, who do you think you are?
The nerve of you.
And this is a dude that,
it's a man's man.
Yes, he honestly does save lives for a living. Okay. So, I mean, you kind of like bossed up a little bit in that conversation. I thought that was hilarious. I was like, and what did he say, babe?
But you know what? Here it is, like 20 some odd years later.
Mm-hmm.
And if we had him on the show, he would say, you know what? That made me change my point of view.
Right.
And that made him start to look and evaluate at different things in his life.
Mm-hmm.
And it was those moments, it was that moment and a couple of other moments that we had experienced together that he was like, wait a minute.
Who is this guy?
Yeah. And it actually created a higher level of respect for him towards me. Like, wait a minute, this dude, who do you think he is? But I better hear what he's saying, because this dude kind of came at me kind of hard.
Mm-hmm. And you were really great friends.
Still good friends.
Yeah, and I think that sometimes it's okay and maybe very important for you to share that stand with people who you really care about. Like, you want them to be successful in their own journey. And so you kind of have to pull the carpet and say, hey, you know what? This is what we're up to. This is why. And I would love for you to be a part of that with me.
Look, think about if I hadn't said that. I'm going to fast forward to today.
Yeah, true.
He and his family out of debt, own business.
He about to retire.
Yeah, like
young guy.
Like, they're doing things at a level that I'm impressed by. But I could go back and say, I feel like I had something to do with it.
Oh, of course. Okay. Husband got to take a little bit of credit.
But, it was that moment. And I think as a friend, I did him a favor. And it was one of those things where I look at his life today. Life is going, great. Got a lot of good things happening for him and his wife and his family and his kids. And so I was like, that's a great thing. And that's why in this episode we're talking about, friends, take them or leave them.
Yeah.
But I didn't leave them. I was taking them, but I had to take a stance.
Sure.
And in that stance, I think it kind of helped catapult him along. So, well, let's talk about it though. What was an outcome early on of, challenging some of our friends or pushing them? Like, what were some of the things that we did?
The very first thing, when we had an infant, mind you, like not even a 1-year-old, we actually said we were going to do Financial Peace University. And it basically takes you from how to save money, why to save money, getting out of debt, creating a budget, all of that stuff for 13 weeks at the time. And we were like, okay, we don't want to do this by ourselves. And on top of that, this is what I was thinking. I remember this very vividly. I would get my kit. We would get our kit as leaders or facilitators of this group. We would get our kit for free if we got 10 people to do the group, right? And so we were like, we about to ask all our friends because I don't want to pay this $200. And so part of it for me, I'll be honest, was money motivated. Like, I'm not trying to pay this money. I want these people to come with me. But of course, everything's more fun and better with friends, right? But we gathered them all together and was like, hey, we want to do this. Will you do this with us? And that was like our first, stab at seeing who was in,
It's funny what a little bit of motivation can do.
Money motivation.
Yeah. And I thought it was good because like it really started to change each other. We started to change each other's perspectives. We really started to embrace it and we got on that journey and we went through that course. And I say like a lot of things, that was one of those early on foundational things. And we just kept adding, we added more to that foundation and we have been building on that foundation over the years because that started us. But then we started seeking more knowledge, seeking to understand, about investments and taxes and insurance and real estate. And I think all of those things together were the things that created a foundation for us. And we've just added experience on top of that, and we've built that foundation. But I say it's been friends. I remember a long time ago that someone told me friends come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And, I think we can all go back and we could pinpoint those lifetime friends that you knew from, grade school or middle school or high school or wherever, where when you call them up, you haven't talked in years, you just pick up.
Yeah.
Wherever it was you left off. It's no work. It's easy. Those are those lifetime friends. And sometimes people do come into your life for a reason. Friendships serve a purpose.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes where we've had to learn, okay, well, this was a reason that they came into my life. So I don't have to hold on to it forever and I can let it go because sometimes the season that friendship is in, it starts and it ends and it can go. And so that's where you have to know how to ebb and flow and how to move and know what God is doing in your lives with friendships that he brings into your life.
Yeah.
And I know that season we created some lifetime friends. We had some season friends and we had reason friends.
We did have all of them. Yeah.
Some people were all of those things and some people were some of those things. So
Yeah. So what do you feel like was the best thing about that little moment in our life when we decided to do that group, Financial Peace University, with our friends? What was like a standout moment for you?
I think the fact that, one, I saw other people who were in the same situation. I didn't need to take a point of view where I felt guilty about, having student loan debt and car note debt and credit cards. And this was right before we decided to get a mortgage, but we got a mortgage right after that. But I didn't need to feel bad about those things because as I was going through it, I saw that here we have other people going through the exact same things that we were going through.
Yeah.
And it really gave me some freedom to say, okay, I'm not the only one out here.
Yep.
And knowing that I wasn't the only one out there, it actually said, okay, well, I've got people who can align and we can get on the same page, and, we can definitely toil in this together and grow through this and get out of it. So I felt like that was a really good thing that I took away, or a really good learning that I was able to get from it.
Yeah, and I would piggyback on that because in the very beginning, we were talking about how getting out of debt can be a very lonely journey, right? And with your friends, you typically don't talk numbers, right? That's not really something that you want to share. You're not going to share your income. You're not going to share your total budget amount, how much debt you got. These are things that you keep to yourself. And in that moment, early on, and matter of fact, these were not people we knew for a very long time. We probably had just met them within the last year or two. And so we were still getting to know them. And we shared not all of that stuff, but we definitely shared some of our perspectives, and, we were very sensitive to the fact that we didn't really want to dine out. So we would do a potluck and we would, you know what I mean? But we did share a little bit more, and some folks were more forthcoming with numbers and some were not. But we learned to appreciate that everybody had something different going on. And I think that when we act like talking about money is taboo with friends, that can be detrimental. And I think a really good thing to do is to ask what the boundaries are when you're having some of these conversations. What is too far? Help me understand so that I can respect those boundaries. Because we were in the space of that, that made it a little bit easier. But if you've never talked money with your friends, I think it's fair to ask them, how far can we go? You know what I'm saying? Or what is it that you need from me in this moment? And how can I help if they're open to that? But I think that one of the beautiful things that came out of that is just to understand that we can have healthy conversations about money with people that we consider friend. And I think that is valuable on your journey in life, because honestly, if you can't really talk about money with friends, you probably need to find some friends with whom you can talk money with.
Yeah, now I want to keep it real with people too, because on the flip side of that, we had people who weren't about that life either.
Yeah.
They were like, nah, I'm just out here doing what I want to do, living how I want to live. And
they kept doing it.
Yeah, and they weren't concerned about, getting out of debt. And I always find it interesting, and I have to catch myself when people don't take it seriously. Like, oh, I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about paying my house off, or I'm always going to have a car note. That's just what people do. And, I use credit cards because, I want to get the points. And, and people don't know that credit cards, you just spend 13% more on average when you spend credit versus when you spend cash, because it doesn't register the same way. And so I'm like, okay, well, hey, we can be friends, and I'm not, stifling the friendship, but I've had to learn to control how I even respond to people, because it's not my way is just right, or what I'm doing is the only way to do it. People have to choose how they're going to live their lives. And I think that as people hear this, you have to evaluate the friendships that you have. And maybe you decide where they fall in that reason, season, or lifetime.
Yeah.
Or even if you put them in this area and allow them access to this portion and sector of your life, and maybe you don't get into other portions or sectors of your life if it's something that they can't align to and help you accomplish the goal.
Right. And what I say to clients all the time is, be careful who your accountability partners are. And that is in air quotes, because an accountability partner isn't always a friend. It's not your shopping buddy. It's not the person you go golf with. It's not the person that y'all always go out to eat with. This is, you might have to be a little bit more discriminate in who you allow to help you on the journey. And in all truth, we didn't have enough of that back then. You know what I mean? We were more, really, I think you were more staunch in your opinion, and I was more determined in my attitude. And that was just how I believe God lined us up, and how he made us as a team couple. But honestly, not everybody has that, and you kind of need somebody else to help you, just keep you encouraged. And I think that's something that we tend to miss, is that just because they're your bestie doesn't mean that they're the best person to help you stay focused,
So what's your typical response when friends don't have the same point of view or perspective as we may have if we're
Yeah.
going through, some point of this, some facet of this debt journey or relationship journey? What's your typical response?
Be respectful. Period. I value the friendship, I value the relationship, I value where we are, and just be respectful of differences. There have been many times through years where I have differed or had an opinion that was contrary to what a friend or a family member might deem to be, you know, their opinion. And if I'm respectful and open to hear where they are, hey, have at it. You know what I mean? If you want to know my opinion, great. They will ask. But if you don't, the thing that I'm not doing as a coach, and this is the thing that I've always had to guard myself against, is I'm not spewing out all of my tips and my tools and all of that to everybody, because not everybody wants to hear that. Frankly, that is not what our relationship is based on. And so I have had to really learn to have an understanding mind and heart, because everybody is at a different place. Everybody is at a different place. And so if they can learn from my walk, just like you have said, learn from what it is that I do and the results that we're able to achieve, awesome. If they want some more help, great. People have asked me for help. I've actually coached with friends. And that was an interesting thing, and making sure that we have some healthy boundaries. But I think the biggest thing is to be respectful of where they are on their journey and what it is that is important to them, and not to ever make them feel like what they're doing is quote unquote less than, or, that whatever it is. I just don't want to be judgy about what it is that they're up to, especially if I disagree.
Yeah, I think you make a very good point about being respectful, because we have taken the mentality that, look, we're gonna do us.
Yeah.
Whether you want to jump on board or whether you want to be in opposition to it, it's good either way, because we're just gonna do us. And I think that's one of the important things. You can't always be moved by what people may tend to think, because if you're always moved by what people think, that's always going to impact and affect what you do.
Yeah.
And for me and for us, I believe our longer term goals and the things that we've wanted to accomplish, that's been the bigger picture and the bigger yes that we focused on. And so, like you said, being respectful and mature and not allowing that to sway us, because friends can they can yield they can wield a big level of influence in your lives if you allow them to. And that could get you totally off track sometimes. And you got to be willing to say, you know what? I'm good. You do you. I'm going to do me.
Right. Exactly. So do you think that we'd be where we are today if we had never done that Financial Peace University group?
I think I'm going to say two things. The first thing is, I think we still would have got there. We just might have gotten there a different way or a different path. But just the mentality that I believe we had started early on, I think we would have eventually got there. I think that it helped us get there a little faster, because we started doing some pretty radical things.
We took FPU to the next level.
That's why I said FPU was only part of the foundation. We started adding onto the foundation, doing other things, and we had a group of people, and it wasn't like a dozen people. It was a handful of couples that were on the same page that were like, okay, we're gonna get radical
after FPU was done.
And so we started proposing these radical things to each other to hold each other not only accountable, but to get in connection and communion and help each other navigate. So we're going to say that's a story for another day.
It is a whole episode, babe. It's a whole episode.
We were we were out here in these streets, we about to make this thing happen. And long story short is, we saw several couples, it was 4 or 5 couples, including ourselves, that we were all able to get to a position where we all became debt free.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, look, if you need to find friends like that.
I know that's right. And they're out there. They are out there. And that's why, I love places to go. Like we, went to Economy, and you go to different places where your friends are. Like, you don't know that you may not have
Go
met
find
them
your
yet.
people.
That's
Go
right.
Find your people.
Absolutely, because your people are out there. Even forums. There's just a lot of places where you can find people. But I think that, it was absolutely helpful. And I agree. I think us doing that class helped accelerate us getting out of debt, and also probably having enough of a balance where we would have fun with them versus feeling like it was, we were having no fun. 'Cause I think that's the other myth and misconception about getting out of debt, is that you're not going to have any fun at all. And I think that, honestly, our entire relationship, we were trying to have fun. We never had moments where we're like, this is terrible, I'm gonna like stop it all together, caution to the wind. I just don't feel like we ever felt that way, because we made sure to have fun.
Anybody listening, they've already heard it once, and you're going to hear it again. Progress over perfection.
Yes.
So, keep doing it, one step in front of the other. So let's talk about how do we make it worth it?
Well, it's always worth it to make sure that you have friends along the journey, but it's also always worth it to ensure that you stay committed to whatever it is that that is your goal for your family and around finances and in your relationship, because you never want to sacrifice yourself and what it is you're up to for somebody else. So that's what makes it worth it for me.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go back to what you said. Respect what people have to say, and don't have a haughty attitude or like, I know everything mentality, and what I'm doing is right, what you're doing is wrong. Just say, hey, I appreciate you, I respect you, but let's keep it moving, because I think the way you make it worth it is do you.
Yes, you, boo.
And don't worry about what people are going to think. Don't worry about what people are going to feel, because sometimes you got to put your bigger goal, your long-term goal, ahead of what people are going to think or what they're going to feel about what you are doing with your life to get the outcomes that you believe are going to be the best things for you. So I think if you do that, that will definitely make it worth it. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, this has been fantastic. Thanks, hon. I appreciate you bringing those nuggets of wisdom this week. And I think that, that's something that I need right now, is, to keep all of it in perspective and know that even now, we might not be in debt, but, things can be lonely when you feel like you're not necessarily aligned with folks and stuff. So I appreciate all that you have shared, and I hope that it was helpful for everybody who listened in.
Look, go out there, find your people. And until next time, we're out. Thank you for spending some of your time with us today.
We appreciate all your support. So be sure to subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you listen to this podcast.
You can find us on Instagram at For Better and Worth.
And sign up for our email on forbetterandworth.com.
Till next time, we're out of here.